Hey, good morning, everybody. It is me, Robert Phoenix. I'm back. I've been noticing that when I start the show, the volume seems to be rather rather loud, slightly abrasive, and so I've attempted to remedy that today by having the mic slightly back and to the left. So, good morning, PB. Happy Wednesday. Here we are. Yes, doing well. There's my man, Steve Mercer, Thor by the door. He is in the house. Loren, Beth Berry, Double B, coming onto the show today. Nice to see you, Beth Berry, in chats. Who else do we have? Who else is showing up? After yesterday's show, it'll be interesting. Had a few defectors yesterday. After yes, Tina Sherman. Hi, Tina. PMSO, living large currently. Isn't that what LLC stands for? Living large currently. Danica Rose in the house. There's my man, Uncle Glenn. What's going on? The introspective woodworker, aka Ryan, is here. Good to see you, Ryan. And let's see, Frank Bry, real catalyst. Yesterday's show was great. There are the Crimmies, Evan Taylor. I liked yesterday's show. I had some interesting reactions. What's up, cuz? Good to see you, Sandra Wells. Boundaries are good. Great show filled with wisdom, honesty, love. First comment, yet a few years watching. Monkey butt toenail. I think that might be the new chat moniker of the day. Lady Leo in the house. There's Joe Mama, Carolina in the Pines. Faith Emerald V coming to us all the way from Bonn, Germany. Zachlin Ortega. We got fires in Northern California. Oh boy, here we go. There's also some fires going on in Colorado as well, outside of Aspen. There she is, Judy Anderson. What's going on, Judy? Good to see you. Loved your show. I'm glad. It was yeah, it was an interesting expression of I don't know, honesty, I guess, as they say. I was keeping it real. Going down the lack of leadership aisle and trying to assess really what's going on here. And I don't have a problem with what I said or how I shared it. Not just about kind of the hard stuff or the boundary stuff, but I was fairly critical of global leadership and really positioning it in a certain way. And the word I used was tranny Karens. And it's interesting because there were a number of people in chat who not just chat, but comments who thought that the terminology was actually appropriate, and some others who took offense to it. Well, that's life these days, and sometimes we have to use hyperbolic or jingoistic language in order to get people's attention. And I was really trying to prove a point in a fairly specific sort of way about essentially who's running the show, or at least who is administrating the running of the show. And that's not to say that your typical garden variety, heterosexual male, fill in the color, has been marginally or remarkably better at quote unquote leading the show, as we know that most politicians, most, not all, by the way, most are deeply compromised, have been either willingly or through some form of subtle and not so subtle extortion. So I'm not really giving them a pass either. I'm just looking at the current crop of so-called leaders and just how uniform they are in terms of their, how shall we say this, biological predilections and at times even alterations. And that it's not some kind of coincidence that all of a sudden we're being inundated by a so-called plague and a pandemic, and a certain group of people are out in front and they are essentially making sure that the policies are as strict and as hardcore and borderline fascistic as possible. And, I think Jordan Foltz, who has a really great YouTube channel, Pappy Aesthesia, if you haven't found Jordan, he's been on the show once. And, he had a really great video about the changing face of fascism. And, we've always been sort of conditioned to think that a fascist would, look like a strong man, like a Benito Mussolini or a Joseph Stalin or a Tito or a Mao Zedong, or, in more contemporary terms, even Donald Trump, right? Like, this idea of the strong man, and usually, but not in all cases, representing, the sort of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, or at least the kind of the white version of that model would be part of it as well. But, when I looked at the players that I was talking about yesterday, who definitely conform to a certain type of fascism, the face of fascism has drastically changed and has been transformed. So we're looking at fascism in the wrong places, or we're looking for it in the wrong places. Antifa is essentially doing the groundwork for a lot of the real fascists, right? And that's the whole idea behind Antifa, is that they claim to be anti-fascist when in actuality, they actually are fascist. And they're the equivalent of the brown shirts. And whose bidding are they doing, right? It's, I think they're indirectly doing the bidding of Donald Trump, indirectly, because the Democratic Party is collapsing before our very eyes. I'm going to get into that. But before I do, let me just get into the old invocation here. Dear blessed Father, dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God, of the great central sun. Let me move out of the way. You just get a little visual now for that. Within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best information, truth, and wisdom come through this channel at this time, and that we are blessed and graced by the qualities of integrity, character, faith, wisdom, strength, flexibility, compassion, empathy, fortitude, discernment, grit, commitment, and above all, love. If there is any karmic residue that we share, may it be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed from this stream, so be it. Let's go. All right. I've been up since 4:30 this morning, just trying to extend my day a little bit, and because I got a lot on the plate and a lot to get done. So, I wanted to show you guys some pictures. Let me show you some of these pictures. So these are some of the horses that I met on Monday. So you guys get to see some of these horses. What do we got here? Here we go. These are some cool horses, let me tell you. Very cool horses. I think you'll enjoy the visuals here. Let me see. Get out of here. Let's do this. And let's just open this sucker up right here. Let's do that. Should be on there. Okay. So this is one of the horses that I met on Monday. Should be able to see him fairly well here. So this is one of the new horses at the rescue ranch. He's quite large, this horse, and he was extremely docile, and so docile that and I'll show you another picture at the end here. that Rosanna, who is the woman who is doing a lot of the work here to rescue some of these horses. She was right, on him bareback. He'll let you ride him bareback. He's a great horse. Now he's new to their rescue operation, so he hasn't quite integrated in with the rest of the just the herd, as it were. But just a great animal, very gentle, very kind, very sweet. So he's one of the horses. They have 9, and I'll bring up a couple others here so you can get a sense as to some of their demeanors. Let's see what we got here. Let's do this. All right. This is another horse. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Let's just see if I can pop this thing up. Yeah. Let's take a little bit longer. Okay, here we go. I think we could do this. I think this might work. Because I just loaded these up this morning. Come on, you can do it. Here we go. I love this picture. This is a great picture. Isn't that great? Look at that guy. So he was one of my favorite horses. Obviously, he was quite friendly. You look at it. If you look at this horse, he'd be like your kind of standard, horse that would show up in like a late 50s, early 60s kind of Western. And here he's showing his more, how shall we say, playful side, transparent. He was looking for another apple. That's what he was doing. He said, "Hey, buddy, you got another one of those apples?" All right. I got one more. I actually have 2 more, so let's do this. Now, the next horse she's a real stunner. Her name is Journey. And she seems to be like a very nice horse. They're all nice horses, but she's beautiful. This horse is really a gorgeous horse. Here we go. And let me just fire this up here. Oh yeah. So this is Journey. And by the way, these are all working horses. They do trail rides with these horses. So there's Journey. And she's got quite the mane there, doesn't she? Beautiful mane. Again, these animals are so gentle, right? But at the same time, they're forces of nature. They're total forces of nature. I love her eyelashes. And then let me pop up in. Whoops. Let me do Rosanna's picture, so you can get a look at Rosanna. This is the woman who is sort of the horse angel rescuing them. And again, we're going to get into one of the reasons why she is involved in this work. I'm going to let her talk about it on Friday. It's going to be a great interview, by the way. This woman has a lot of charisma. All right, so let me bring this up. So here she is, essentially, demonstrating that this guy is so gentle that he's ready to ride bareback. So this is one of the locations. This is one of the events we're going to be having out here when we have our event together in October, with the emails going out today. So there you go, a little glimpse into sort of what we're up to out here in the hill country. All right, let's get down to it. Let's get down to some business. Where do I start? Well, what about Australia? Australia, you got some issues. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but unfortunately, I need to be, because now you're really beginning to look at what looks like forced vaccinations coming in your direction. So let me bring this up here. Where are we? There. Let me hit you with this, and I'm going to read this story. Now, this is interesting because, of course, they're going to say that this is not going to be mandatory, but that's where they start. So here you go. Scott Morrison announces free COVID-19 vaccines for Australians, backtracks on mandatory comments. So he went mandatory out of the gate. And now they're walking it back a little bit. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has backtracked on his comments that a COVID-19 vaccine will be mandatory as you can possibly make it. So basically what he's saying, he says, look, we're going to try and get as many people to take this as possible. We're going to use everything in our toolkit to make it as mandatory as possible without making it mandatory. News.com.au revealed today that the Morrison government confirmed a landmark agreement with drug giant AstraZeneca to manufacture one of the world's most promising coronavirus vaccines, currently being developed by Oxford University researchers. Doesn't that just sound official? Solid and official. If it's proved safe. Now, by the way, some of those Moderna trials have not gone well. They have not gone well. They're some of these people that have the Moderna trials are actually they're kind of in trouble, right? They're monitoring these people that have gotten some of these vaccines, and apparently I don't know where reality and fiction converge these days, but apparently Putin's daughter had a shot of the Russian vaccine and died. I don't know if I believe that, but that's been part of the news cycle. It's not really being talked about. I'm sure there are a number of people in this country who believe that Putin is another one of these so-called faces of fascism, and are probably thrilled that his daughter will not be allowed to have any of his downstream progeny. I kid you not. There are probably people that are very, very happy over the fact that theoretically Vladimir Putin's daughter died, but then they have to link it to the fact that, well, she died of a vaccine. And then how do they reconcile that? Because I'm sure that those people that would be applauding that are probably also people that are very pro-vaccine. In order to kind of navigate one's political takes or one's political affiliations, there's a lot of contorting that has to go on. There's a lot of contortion. Like, if I was a Democrat and I was watching the Democratic convention, I'd be going through a lot of contortions. And I guess the ultimate conclusion is that we're going to hold our nose and we're going to look the other way. And we're just going to vote for Biden because we sure as hell know that we don't want Trump. And is that really what it's boiled down to? Is this really the sort of shining light of the free world? A republic, right? A constitutional republic that practices democracy, and this is what we get. This is how this thing has de-evolved into its most absolutely cynical manifestation. Man, I mean, if I was really on that side of the fence, I'd be having a really hard time, a very hard time. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders just keeps going on, and you think that Bernie Sanders is actually running for president, because he's actually getting more, in some ways, more airtime than Biden. He's actually talking about policies. He's talking about what he would do. Biden doesn't talk about anything. What you get is you get a come on, man. Oh, and he had this groundbreaking interview with Cardi B. Why don't you call me Joey B? We have something in common. Oh my God. The whole thing has just been so cringeworthy, really cringeworthy. And what passes for excellence now is stunning. It's just absolutely stunning in its lowered expectations, right? It's lowered ability to actually really stand or reflect or resemble anything regarding excellence. Like, people were talking about Michelle Obama's presentation, which was videotaped months ago, as if it was, the Gettysburg Address. I mean, if this is what passes for excellence these days, boy, we are in real trouble. I mean, real trouble. And everybody just sits there and nods their head, and, at least on one side of the ledger sheet, and they're all in some kind of obscene group think and group hug. And like I said, the right has their own version of this. It looks like Laura Loomer has won a congressional seat down in Florida. She managed to raise quite a bit of money. Now, how did that happen? And one of her, I think, advisors or people that certainly recommended her is Roger Stone. So Roger Stone has not gotten out of the political game, and now looks to be, in fact, behind the Laura Loomer campaign. And, Laura Loomer is another one of these creations. Laura Loomer popped in out of nowhere. There was this whole kind of cadre of the alt-right girls, like Faith Goldie, Laura Loomer. Those kind of popped in out of nowhere. And Laura Loomer came onto the scene in Las Vegas. And apparently she and Jason Goodman were being paid by the same person to do certain. I think it might have been Sheldon Adelson. But I think Laura Loomer was getting more money than Jason Goodman. And of course, she began to indulge in sort of agitprop, Alex Jones type activities where she would insert herself into the narrative, and got banned from Twitter and all that. Well, it looks like she's going to be a congressperson for Florida. Is she a dual citizen? Question mark. Anyway, the right has its own kind of version of this stuff. And, it's very interesting to be, I wouldn't say I'm on the sidelines, because I have ideas, and there are certain values and, certain, I don't want to say morals, but certain values that I definitely check in on. But it's interesting to see how how this whole thing is just lining up. And I got to tell you, on the left, on the Democratic side, it is really bad. I've been avoiding watching their convention, but man, it's not good. Not good. Let's continue with this. If it's proved safe, Prime Minister Scott Morrison believes the agreement will ensure Australians will be among the first countries in the world to secure the jab. Well, of course. Revealing this morning it could be available to Aussies as soon as early next year. The UK government has already ordered 100 million doses. Asked whether the vaccine would be mandatory, Mr. Morrison told 3AW's Neil Mitchell on Wednesday morning that it needed to get about 95% of the population. I would expect it to be as mandatory as you can possibly make it. We'll talk about that. There are always exemptions for any vaccine on medical grounds, but that should be the only basis. Okay, well, what medical grounds are we talking about now? What medical grounds are we talking about? Are they the medical grounds that exist when you look at the insert of a vaccine and you see all the things that that vaccine could do to you, and you say to yourself, I really have some medical concerns about what this thing can do to me? Because it says it right there on the insert. It says these are the things that can happen. So does that count as a medical concern? Or is the medical concern having to do with some sort of, I don't know, pre-existing condition that some physician somewhere could link up and say, well, if this person takes this vaccine, then this condition will be exacerbated. So therefore, they are immune to the immunization. Well, Australians, you better figure this out, and you better get on your case quickly, lickety-splitly quickly, as do the rest of us, by the way. I mean, we're talking about a pandemic that destroyed, the global economy. Just look at that sentence. I mean, we're talking about a pandemic that has destroyed, the global economy and taking the lives of hundreds of thousands or something like that all around the world, and over 450 Australians here. Okay, how many people die of a flu every year? Okay, so you have 450 Australians who have died for the so-called coronavirus. And we know that hospitals play fast and loose. By the way, I found out here in town that for every coronavirus case that they officially stamp as being coronavirus, the local hospital gets $35,000. They get $35,000 for every coronavirus patient. How about that? Do you think that during a time when elective surgeries are being frowned upon, well, we got to put those off until we get out of this virus, and hospitals aren't making money, that $35,000 actually means something? Do you think that perhaps they're practicing some form of Skinner box behavioralism, meets capitalism, some sort of Skinner box economic model? I think that that's probably the case. Well, let's see. If we can't do any elective surgeries where we get most of our money, but we can get about $35K per coronavirus patient, I think we got to work on that to keep the doors open, to keep these people employed, to keep my 401k intact. Let's go there. 450 people is nothing. What if I think Melbourne has a population of 5 million alone? And you're going to be doing this, and you're shutting your economy down, and you're basically throwing people to the ground, hog tying them, forcing them to wear masks because 450 Australians have died? We need the most extensive and comprehensive response to this to get Australia back to normal. No, you don't. What you're saying is we need to have this in place. And if you want to get back to normal, you better fucking take the shot. Okay. This is huge business, by the way. I mean, aside from the fact that vaccine is going to drill right down into your RNA and re-engineer your entire chromosomal structure. Besides that, it's huge business. People are going to make a lot of money. However, he later backtracked on these comments, telling 2GB's Jim Wilson that the vaccine wouldn't be compulsory. There has been a bit of an overreaction to any suggestion of this. There will be no compulsory vaccine. What we want to achieve is as much vaccination as we possibly can. You just got to read between the lines here. Let's see. He said that they had not yet made a firm decision, and this would be made once the medical issues about the vaccine were known. Well, what if the medical issues about the vaccine are known, and they, they're not doing any trials on any animals? They're just going straight to human. And what if they get the information back and it's not good? But they're getting pressured from their new lords and masters in order to make that vaccine as mandatory as possible. You think they're going to look the other way? You damn right they're going to look the other way. Mitchell pointed out that there would be campaigns from the anti-vaxxers, but the prime minister seemed unfazed. I'm used to that. I was the minister that established no jab, no pay. Oh, he's a tough guy, isn't he? He said, referring to a policy that sees government benefits withheld from parents who do not vaccinate their children. My view on this is pretty clear and not for churning. Okay. During a later press conference, Australia's acting chief medical officer, Professor Paul Kelly, said the vaccine at first would be voluntary. Of course, the first will be a voluntary call for people, and I'm sure there will be long queues, socially distanced, of course, for this vaccine, Professor Kelly said. He said there would be strong campaigns to encourage people. And we've had experience before of linking vaccination with other programs and all those things we've looked at over time. Well, the No Jab, No Pay program is aimed at getting children vaccinated. The Prime Minister was asked what the government would do when they were adults. We're going to take this one step at a time, Mr. Morrison told reporters. I don't think offering jelly beans is the way to do that, as you do with kids. But we'll take those issues as they present and consider what steps are necessary at that time. Yeah, right. Like they're just going to think about it when it happens. Right. Is that called leadership? Really? Is that called, we're just going to kind of see how it goes, and we're kind of figure it out, right? I mean, at the very least, I mean, they should be called on or called out for the leadership piece. Like, this is not how leaders work. No, what they're basically doing is they know what they're going to do is they know exactly what they're going to do. They know exactly what they're going to do. But they just don't want to talk about it right now because they don't want people to get upset. The obvious priority is around health workers and people like that. What does that mean? People like that. Like, what kind of people are like health workers? Can you fill in the blank there? People like that. Good luck with this guy. The Prime Minister was asked how he would make any vaccine mandatory. This is like any vaccine, and as you know, I have a pretty strong view on vaccines, being the social service minister that introduced no jab, no pay. So he said no jab, no pay for about three times, at least 3 times. He's a tough guy. You don't take the shot, you're not going to get your little goodies. You won't get your grown-up jelly beans. There you go. And let's see, what do we have here? They and their safety and their health depends on the vaccine's take-up more broadly in the community. That's how they get protected. Again, the logic around this just blows my mind. If you get the vaccine, then why the hell should you worry about other people that are not vaccinated? Why? Aren't you safe? Aren't you safe? Don't you get that protection from being vaccinated while other people are at risk of becoming zombies or worse, dead? What's the big deal? You get the vaccine, you're cool. Why should you force anybody else to get the vaccine? right? I mean, this is one of the most baffling kinds of rationalizations or ideas or arguments of, for everybody getting vaxxed that I've ever heard. This is an important part of our vaccine strategy, not just on COVID-19, but more broadly. We'll seek its most widespread application, as we do with all important vaccines. Now, they could be vaccinated you through, aerosol spraying, through your water, through the actual test itself. So a lot of this could just be, dinner theater, smoke and mirrors. But clearly, they want to campaign. Now, here's my assessment is that, there will be vaccines, and the first batch of the vaccines will be very benign. Then they may actually work, or they may be a placebo, and they're going to wait. They'll wait about 3 months, and there will be very few effects, if any at all. And say, see how safe those vaccines are? All those people who were so paranoid, those conspiracy theorists. All right, let's go to round two. Then round two comes in, and I think it'd be a very different story come round two. Look at all this. If this vaccine proves successful, we will manufacture supply vaccines straight away under our own steam and make it free for 25 million Australians. However, there is no guarantee that this or any other vaccine will be successful, which is why we continue our discussions with many parties around the world while backing our own researchers at the same time to find a vaccine. No. This is kind of a scary picture in some ways. Like, this looks like something I could set up in my garage. Like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, I could probably find everything on that table on eBay. If this is, what is this? What have we got here? Is that I don't think this is Oxford. I don't know where this is. Probably China. I don't know where this is, but if this is indicative of the creation of a vaccine, an effective vaccine, I'd be a little worried here. A little worried. This looks a little like the old home brew. How the vaccine works. It goes on and on and on and on and on. You get the drift. You get the picture. Australia, you better wake up. If you're not there yet, you better wake up. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for you, your country, and the rest of the world. Same goes for New Zealand. Same goes for the UK. Same goes for the United States of America. All right, we got more news to cover, and vaccine related. Here's a woman from New Jersey who said no. That she did not want the vaccine. Let me get the link up here, rocked and ready to go. There it is. Now she did not want to take the vaccine, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she actually worked for Pfizer. Let me just find this thing here. Right there. Here we go. New Jersey worker fired for rejecting vaccine. Can't sue Pfizer, court says. Let's check this out. So this is somebody who actually works for a pharmaceutical company who theoretically creates vaccines. A former Pfizer employee who said she was fired for refusing a vaccine on religious grounds can't proceed with a discrimination lawsuit because she waived that right. New Jersey Supreme Court ruled Tuesday in a decision 2 justices called potentially troubling for employee rights. Amy Scoose's lawyer alleges she was fired in 2017 for refusing to accept a yellow fever vaccine because it went against her religious beliefs. Scoose worked as a flight attendant at Pfizer's airport facility in West Trenton. So I guess they've got their own private aircraft and their own private airport. The dispute centered on Pfizer's online materials it emailed to employees that described the company's policy requiring them to submit to arbitration and waive their right to a jury trial. Employees were asked to click a box to acknowledge receipt of the policy. The materials also stated that the employees who didn't click the box but continued to work for the company for at least 60 more days would be considered bound by the policy. So you either had to click the box, and if you didn't click the box but continued to work there, you, for all intents and purposes, clicked the box. Okay? So that was the receipt of the policy. So if you acknowledge the receipt of the policy, does it mean that you agree with the policy? You're acknowledging receipt of it. It doesn't mean that you agree with it. Now, I don't know the actual wording of the policy as it relates to, the receipt of the policy and acknowledging it, but they are two different things. But if you didn't do that, you're there for 2 months, you've opted in. A judge initially dismissed Skous's suit, rejecting her argument that she never explicitly agreed to waive her right to sue. But last year, an appeals court reversed and let the suit go forward, leading to the state Supreme Court considering the case. In Tuesday's 5-1 ruling, where one justice did not participate, how about that? You think maybe the justice had the number of shares in Pfizer, perhaps? The Supreme Court held that Pfizer clearly informed Skous that by continuing to work there, she would be waiving her rights to pursue employment claims in court. Skous had the option to leave her employment if it was unacceptable to her that most potential disputes between her and Pfizer would be arbitrated rather than resolved by a judge or a jury. Justice Ann Patterson wrote. Alan Shore, an attorney representing Skous, called the ruling a dark day for employees. I think the Supreme Court erred here. They're holding that employees don't anymore have to agree to arbitrate, which has been the law in New Jersey for 4 decades. So apparently in New Jersey, they didn't have to agree to that. They could go to a jury. Arbitration in many cases will favor not the claimant, but it will actually favor the party that's being sued by the claimant in many cases, which is why in California, all the tech companies decided that any case regarding any issues around things like censorship or whatever would have to go to arbitration. This is what they all decided upon. And it kind of backfired with them with Patreon and Owen Benjamin, because they didn't want to get in front of a judge who maybe didn't like tech or maybe didn't like somebody. They thought that if they got into arbitration, that they could kind of massage it and, move the outcome into their favor. So in New Jersey, you would actually have to go before a court. And now what Pfizer did is he said, look, you're not going to go before a court. You're not going to be able to sue us. You'll have to go into arbitration. And she didn't want to do that. But apparently, because of her deciding to not opt in or opt out, she waived her right. This is how this thing breaks down. Okay. In an email statement, Pfizer said the decision reflects that our arbitration program was appropriately implemented and communicated to our employees consistent with applicable legal requirements. Chief Justice Stuart Rabner, in a dissent, and Justice Barry Albin, in a separate opinion, agreeing with the majority, also warned that the ruling could set a troubling precedent for employees. If an entire industry or profession inserts in employment and consumer contracts arbitration provisions on a take it or leave it basis, the public has no real choice. So this is a version of Scott Morrison's, You either take the jab or you don't get the benefits. You see how this is being engineered? You either take their decision or you lose your fucking job, right? You either agree to arbitration or you're gone. Now, she's a flight attendant, and I'm pretty sure that Pfizer thought she's fairly replaceable, to be fair, right? Or to be frank. If this had been somebody higher up on the food chain, do you think Pfizer would have the same kind of cavalier attitude towards that person? Somehow I don't think so. It all depends on where they are. At what point is somebody really expendable? I mean, I think ultimately, when we look at people like Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby or, certain celebrities who wind up doing the perp walk, I mean, ultimately, everybody's expendable at a certain point. Some are rare cases. Those two, I think, are rare because they tend to sacrifice their own. By the way, Bill Cosby, very high-ranking Mason, which is, kind of bizarre, right? You would think that a high-ranking Mason would be able to just navigate and skate through the courts. Like I say, they wind up beating their own every now and then, just to show the rest of them. See this? This could happen to you. Same thing happened to Bernie Madoff, right? See that? That could happen to you right there. Right? You thought you were safe. You thought you were part of a certain community and you were a banker. Yeah, it could happen to you. Same thing with Weinstein. All right, so this is troubling. This is very, very troubling. The aviation facility at West Trenton consists of 90,000 square feet with a private hangar, maintenance shops, a fueling station, executive conference, and hospitality accommodations, according to the New York firm that designed it, Margulis Holsley Architecture. So there we go. It's another version of take it or leave it, right? It's another version of Scott Morrison's take the jab or go suck on this. It's a little bit different, but it's another variation. And this is how this thing is going to roll out, right? They're just going to continue to steer or I don't want to say guide. I'm going to say steer. They're going to steer people into certain outcomes that are tied to their financial well-being. And if you don't play by the rules, if you don't agree to their restructuring of if you can sue, how you can sue, if you can take the vax, under what conditions, will you be allowed not to take the vax, right? It won't be through force. It will not be through force. It will be through essentially either legislating or administrating and truncating your ability to either make a living or do business or even travel and move about, right? So this is how it'll happen. This is how they'll get people to agree to ultimately say, oh, fuck it. Oh, fuck it. I'm going to get out of that light. Fuck it. I'll take the vax. I'll take the shot. I'll take the jab. I've got a good friend who is planning a trip to Egypt, right? So she's taking people to Egypt. And she takes people to Egypt every couple of years. And of course, they're making sure that everybody has had a coronavirus test before they can leave the country. And it's got to be the polymerase chain reaction, the PCR test. And what I told her was that you're probably going to need to do this test if you want to have your business, at least for now. And I said, do it the least invasive way possible. Try to do either the saliva test or the blood test. Just, try not to get the jab. I mean, these are people that have committed money to going to Egypt. And when you go to Egypt and you work with the local people there, like you just can't get out of your agreements. And the people that she knows there are really deep insiders, spending the night in the pyramid and getting access to things that other people just don't get to. They're gonna be floating down the Nile River and, having lunch on the Nile. And, these things are paid for in advance. And what is going to be the lesser of two evils at this point? Will it be to take the saliva test if you can get one and get there, and get a trip in before the COVID passport hits? We're being forced to make very difficult decisions at this point in time. Very difficult decisions. And we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg here. Okay, and normally I would say, oh, fuck it, don't go. But, all this money's been committed. And they've got, they theoretically have people over a barrel. So if for now at least, she can find the least invasive way to do it, honor the agreement, and just, do your trip. But if you have to do the nasal pharyngeal thing, like, fuck it, I would say we're done. That's at least for now. If I was forced with that as like a tour director and had a bunch of money already committed to this thing, and they already had they were supposed to go on this trip back in June, I think. And all hell broke loose in June. They weren't allowed to leave. So I'd probably, at least at this point, try to just finish this thing out and hope for the best moving forward. All right, time for a little comic relief. If you're ready for some comic relief. Well, why don't we start with this? Let's do this. This is a part of Joe Biden's background that a lot of people seem to forget. And, Joe Biden is a politician who, like Kamala Harris, will say anything. So this is Biden's record on being a Zionist. It's quite interesting. Now, you could tell that Biden's had some work done. If that's even Biden. I mean, holy Christ, look at this. Man. That's some turkey neck.
Baby, that you know who. Joe, you're a good friend of the people of Israel, and we appreciate you. We appreciate your support.
I'm a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. That's true, by the way. Yes, you too can be a Zionist. Current Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden said in April 2007, before he was chosen to be Barack Obama's running mate in the 2008 elections, Biden is, of course, correct because Zionism is a political movement that is rooted in 20th century nationalism and fascism. Its use of religious dogma is prompted by political expediency, not spirituality or faith. Theoretically, it is a religious or non-religious, which I don't think that is primarily true. I do think that there is another program running beneath Zionism. It is just a hair's breadth away from our friends at the Chabad. But that's a bit of a different discussion. Anyway, here we go. Trump has made his support for Israel the cornerstone of his foreign policy. Yes, we know Trump is very, very appreciative of Israel. And I think this is at times very hard for so-called Jewish people to reconcile. And it's like he's got a Jewish son-in-law. And, all of his sons have married so-called Jewish women. He's been very good to Israel. And yet, he's an anti-Semite. I mean, again, to navigate through our times, it's very contorting. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance. With a lot of distortion. Kind of like, did you see Stephen Stills playing with that the other night with that Billy guy, the Billy Porter guy who loves to wear dresses, doing the bird song? Oh my God. That thing was so weird. Okay. So Bernie Sanders, of course, but he'll say anything. Bernie Sanders, another guy will say anything. One minute he's for the Palestinians, and the next thing he's, pro-Israel, whatever. He'll say anything. He's got a noodle spine. But this gets into Biden's relationship. And, there's a timeline here. The Palestinians and Arabs are to blame. And yet the other day he's talking about how we need to take Islam a lot more seriously and bring it into our schools even. Like he's getting talking points. But here we go, 1984, he's singing a different tune. 2007, boy, he's out there. He's loud. He's proud. I'm a Zionist. 2013, we get the qualitative edge. He was at APAC on March 2013, and he elaborated on his ideological Zionist beliefs and his president's commitment to the Jewish state of Israel. It's going to be very interesting to reconcile this with people like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who now seem to be very instrumental in creating Joe Biden's political platform. Although we know that he won't be there for very long, so maybe it doesn't mean shit anyway. This is just another kind of passing phase for Joe Biden, his moral obligation, the love for Israel. Right. Now, 2019, he says U.S. Embassy stays in Jerusalem. Right. Vice President Biden would not move the American embassy back to Tel Aviv, but he would reopen our consulate in East Jerusalem to engage the Palestinians. And then in October in 2019, support for Israel unconstitutional. March 20th, above politics, beyond politics. Biden's fiery speech before the pro-Israel lobby group AIPAC at their final annual conference in March was a mere continuation. So, he'll say anything to get elected. Anything. The challenge now, or the problem is that the people who are in his camp are, let's just say, decidedly less pro-Israel. Will we ever get the real story? Probably not, because Biden will be, if he's elected, he'll be gone by, I'd say February. He'll be gone by February. So I'm going to play two more pieces here, one of which you'll get a chuckle with or chuckle out of. And the other, you will be, I believe, inspired. Because, I always like to leave on an uplifting and positive note. So it seems to be a bit of a Joe Biden heavy day in some ways. But this little piece here, if you have not seen it already, will again have you wondering what the hell happened? What the hell happened to this country? What the hell happened to our ability to be semi-rational people engaged in a process that at the very least feigned, and I say feigned, some kind of integrity. That's all out the door now. Watch this. This won't surprise you, but this happened just recently. Like, this is in the last 48 hours. Here we go. Let's start this from the beginning. There's Jill Biden. There she is. What a gal. What a gal. Standing by her man.
Great. Oh, love it. How are you? Hey, everyone. I'm Jill Biden's husband. As you heard tonight, excuse me, you can see why she's the love of my life, the rock of our family. She never gives it.
Did you hear that? I am Joe Biden's husband. I am Joe Biden's husband. That's interesting, actually. If you think about it, maybe he's practicing a new form of intersectionality, right? Maybe he sees himself as both Joe Biden's husband and Joe Biden's wife. I mean, that could go over well if it was played in a certain direction. He could be breaking new ground here. But somehow, I don't think he is. But you know what's really weird about? I mean, look, we expect that out of Joe Biden, Joe Biden's husband, Joe Biden's wife. But watch the hug. Watch the hug. the hug is really weird. It's like it starts off like she's trying to pick his pocket.
Great. God, love it. Oh,
You see that? See that? It's like, okay, she doesn't really want to hug him.
God, love it. Oh,
You know, what is this? She kind of goes to his pocket like what's in there? She's trying to see if he's got his pills in those pocket, I think. Watch.
great. God, love it. Oh,
See, look at what's up with that. It's like chicken hand. It's like Tyrannosaurus Rex hand. She can't even like put her arms around him. What is she checking for? The whole thing is bizarre. And of course, they're in an empty schoolhouse. How fitting is that? I'm surprised they don't have a Black Lives Matter sign somewhere in the background. Oh, is that the UN flag over there? Okay, let's just play this out. She finally decides to hug him.
hey, everyone.
And then once she hugs him, she kind of pushes him away. She kind of pushes him away after the hug happens. She's got, oh, look who's here. Now, this is unintentional, but it's kind of interesting. Looks like she has a pointy witch hat, doesn't it? Oh, my God. At least Clown World is mildly entertaining. But for me, it's the hug. Why don't you try that one of these days? Next time you see somebody you really want to hug, just crane that Tyrannosaurus Rex arm right up there. Kind of go like that, right? See how that works as a hug. And maybe you see what they've got like dangling around their pocket while you're at it, And then when you just like you have to hug, just kind of do a little tap and then push off. I think Joe Biden is pioneering it. What the hell was that? Was that like a social distance kind? It was weird. I just have to see it again one more time. It's just the honest thing. There's no kind of full body embrace. Like, I love this man. This is my guy. I'm wrapping my arms around him as my man and the future president of the United States. She can barely get her arm around him. And not because he's 3 miles wide, but because she doesn't want to.
great. God, love it. Oh, hey, everyone.
I'm sorry. Maybe I don't need to make fun of Jill too much. Maybe she's got some kind of palsy. Maybe she's got a little palsy or something. I don't know. If she has some kind of palsy, Jill, I apologize. Because if you have palsy, I'm sure it's hard to hug Joe. It's just bizarre. Really, really bizarre. I think as bizarre as, hi, I'm Joe Biden's wife. Or I'm Joe Biden's husband. I'm Joe Biden's husband. He could have said wife. He could have said husband. Doesn't matter. My God. This is the Democrats. By the way, the ratings for their convention or whatever this thing is, they are in the toilet. I mean, this is looking more and more like an absolute Trump landslide. Absolute Trump landslide. Wow. All right. What do you guys have to say about that? Her laugh is very nervous. Absolutely. How about Obama's wife, Michael? I feel her energy very strong. Okay. Am I in here? Yeah, I'm in here. I guess. Yeah. Yep, the laugh tells it all. He can't talk right, but she did that on purpose. Thank God Trump has had good diplomacy with Israel and appeals to Jewish Americans. Otherwise, libtard should. Well, they still do that, though, Robbie. They still call him a Nazi. They still call him a Nazi. I mean, that's one of those, what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of those Gordian knots that I think is hard to reconcile in some ways. a terrible actress. Once in Canada, the girl tastes, oh, Uncle Glenn. Feels cruel that they don't let him just retire, for goodness sakes. I'd agree with that, by the way. Let's see. About as loving as Bill and Hillary. Let's see. What else do we have here? So Michelle Obama. I was looking at Michelle Obama. How do people not see that he manhandles women? What else do we have here? He didn't grow up or smell her. She's too old for that, tinfoil. She's way too old for that. So Michelle Obama, I watched her speech. I have to say, her teeth are looking more and more like reptilian teeth. You know, they're getting like sharper and edgier. Have you noticed that? Like I was looking at her mouth. The thing that's really stood out for me with Michelle Obama is her mouth. And did she always have those kind of sharp, kind of reptilian teeth? I mean, that's what really stood out for me when I watched that. When I watched her do that speech. Anybody else check that? What a shit starter Michelle O is. Had the same demonic visitation from Kamala. His mouth. Yeah, you know. Right. Yes, I noticed that about Michael. His teeth are different. It's a different set of teeth, man. Like those teeth are kind of frightening. Clones are faulty, but these are different teeth. These are teeth that are dangerous. Absolutely dangerous. Yes, its mouth. You guys are brutal. But that's good though. Yes, I've noticed it about M. Very weird. Yeah, it's gotten weird. You know what her teeth look like? You know how like with a cartoon that they like will kind of overemphasize the teeth of one of those plants that eats flies, right? One of those fly-eating plants. You ever notice how they in cartoons overemphasize those teeth? That's kind of what it looks like. Dune worm teeth. Michael, still the man. You guys are killing me today. You're killing me. Okay, let's end the show on a positive note. Shall we? Venus flytrap. Yeah. She's got Venus flytrap teeth. You remember in cartoons where it would be like, an over-exaggerated Venus flytrap, and it would have these like, razor sharp mandibles. It's kind of what it looks like. I still say the old Obama admin. Of course they are. Absolutely, Uncle Glenn. They're running it through OAN, and they're using all their operatives. They're using Comey. They're using Strzok. They're using Brennan. They're using Clapper, who have back doors through all the intelligence. And if there's one thing that Shadowgate documentary, I think is really the one thing that's really important about the Shadowgate documentary is that they still have access to those back doors. Okay. They do. Because apparently there's hundreds and hundreds of back doors built into the system. If you really want to get into the Shadowgate stuff, I think just focus on Patrick Berge. He seems like he's the real deal and the guy that has the 411 on it. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys something really inspirational. Really inspirational. Because I like doing that. I like to give you the old vitamin I before the show ends. You get your jab of vitamin I before you leave. And today you're going to get a good one. I want you to watch this young woman. This gives me hope. This gives me faith that we're going to be okay. It's not the thing. It's not like, oh, geez, we're going to be okay because I saw this young gal. It's another piece. It's another piece of the faith algorithm. Here we go. Watch this and dig it. Oh no! What happened? Shit. Did they remove this thing? God damn it. I tried to copy this thing. Here, let me stop it one more time. I tried to copy this thing before I left. I got my haircut today. Got up early. And I tried to do a copy of this. Damn it. All right, let me just refresh this thing. This is not cool. Not cool. Did they remove it? They removed it. Okay, here, let me try this again. Give me 1 second. Let me try it again. Hopefully, it has something to do with loading the video because it is worth watching. And I hope they didn't remove it. Here, let's try one more time. It looks like they may have removed this video. Okay, I'm going to have to find this to see if it's mirrored somewhere. Because essentially what this young woman did is she stood up in front of this crowd. And this is in London, by the way. And she just nailed it. She totally nailed it. Damn. I mean, they can't even let this stuff exist for what? Short period of time. Let's try it one more time. Maybe I can get it here. Hold on. I hope it's the case. It's worth watching.
That is not acceptable. We've been deceived, we've been failed, and so many people, young and old, have been drilled with absolute fear. And it's that fear that's been driving this situation forward. The more fearful you are, the easier you are to be controlled and manipulated. The less fearful you are, the harder it is to be. And by us being here today proves that to be true. Because it shows the people at the top of the chain that we are not afraid. We are not afraid, and we will fight until fear is overridden by strength, knowledge, and unity. Without fear, the powers that be could not control the many. They could not drive people into submission. They could not create division between the people. And they could not strip away one's ability to think for themselves. They could not achieve their agendas. And without the mainstream media, those fears could not be. As a young person, defund the BBC. As a young person, it saddens me the most to see so many of my own generation and younger deceived and living in this fear. So many do not realise just how threatened our futures are. And as young people and children, we are the main targets. We are young and ever growing, and our minds are very easy to mould, and that's been done through the likes of reality TV and the manipulative, addictive, brainwashing, influential ways of social media. The powers that be, they don't want young people especially to know any different than what's presented to us through our phone and TV screens. They don't want us to see the real world for what it actually is. They don't want us to be able to communicate properly, to be strong-minded, and they don't want us by any means to be able to have our own minds. As young, growing individuals, they don't care about us at all. As young people, we always say how much that we want to change the world. And if we really want to do it, we need to start looking up and out from those screens at the real world around us. question absolutely everything from social media to mainstream media to COVID-19. On the 19th of March 2020, the government website stated that the virus was downgraded from being a high-consequence infectious disease. 4 days later, we went into lockdown. Why? The Health Secretary claims that 2 households can meet at a social distance in an outdoor public space, but not in a pub garden, even though a pub garden is an outdoor public space. In some restaurants, you must wear a mask when ordering takeout food, but not if you're ordering to sit in. But what's the difference? Are you wearing a mask because you are fearful of this virus and others around you? Or are you wearing a mask just because you've been told to in the places that you've been told to wear them out of fear of the consequences? Do you believe everything that you've been told just because you've been told it's happening or it exists or because it's for your own benefit? Or are you able to think for yourself and find out information for yourself instead of the government and the media doing it for you? There is absolutely nothing logical or straightforward about COVID-19. There is a much bigger picture to be looked at. So I would strongly encourage you all to look into the following. Number 1, mind space. From the Institute for Government, it's a document that was created in 2010 by the British Gov, which discusses how mind control is used to influence the change of behaviour in society. That's mind space. Number 2, Operation Lockstep. Operation Lockstep is part of a wider document called Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development, written by the Rockefellers in 2010. Also known as the agenda behind COVID-19, everything that has been happening around you and is set to happen in the future is written in that document. These are the people at the top of the chain who have had the ways of the world set in plan for decades. They are years ahead of time, and I strongly encourage you all to read that document and to understand why our futures are at such state. I'd also strongly encourage the following to be looked into. UK Column News, Dr. Rashid A. Buttar and Dr. Vernon Coleman. These are just 3 of the many credible, independent people out there who provide us with the truth that's been missing, who have our best interests at heart, and David Icke, and whose information does not deserve to be dismissed. It's time now, more than ever, for people of all ages everywhere to unite.
Okay, there's 3 minutes left in that, but I'm going to stop it there. You get the drift, right? I mean, whoever that girl's parents are, you should just take a bow. Just take a bow for that, right? How cool was that? That was totally great. That was just totally great. She's probably about, maybe 17? She's a Zoomer. Good for her. She even dropped in a little David Icke. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have dropped in a little Ike. It's cool, right? It's cool. You know what would be the reaction though? People say, "Oh, that poor little thing. She's been brainwashed. She's been programmed. She's suffering from some form of mental illness that obviously her parents subjected her to." That'll be the commentary from another group, right? But all she's really talking about is, hey, look, we need to be able to have the option to make up our own minds. And she's a young person, so this is really important for her and her generation. So kudos to her, props to her, way to go. I'll try to figure out a way to try to make that public, or have you guys be able to copy that. Okay. All right. I'm going to get out of here. Came across Alana Freeland yesterday. I interviewed Alana Freeland like 6 years ago. I have a bunch of interviews with people that are in my archives. I had a really good interview with Alana Freeman. She's an interesting character. Space fence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Tomorrow, we'll see you here again at 8:45 Central Standard Time. Thanks for being here. Use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible, right? And do not give up. Do not give up. Do not give up. Take a stand. However you can, however you will, however you may. Do not underestimate whatever it is you can do to assert and decree your own freedom, your own independence, your ability to think for yourself, your ability to act for yourself, and in the well-being of yourself and hopefully others. That is your inalienable right as a human, right? And no matter what charter it is, whether it's the Charter of London or whether it's your Social Security card or whether it's your birth certificate in all caps, that's just a cover. You know who you are. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. See you then.